Gopijana-vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Acharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana-vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana-vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivedanta Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivedanta Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vansha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, good morning everyone. So thank you so much, really an honor to be with you. Before I proceed, I pray for the blessings of all my seniors here, by their good wishes and grace. We will try to share something on this very beautiful day, the appearance of Advaita Acharya. Srila Advaita Acharya ki. So we're reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Of course, Srila Prabhupada says we're not just reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, all of you are in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sometimes it's mentioned or it's questioned, why did Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami not write about Mahaprabhu's disappearance? Why did he not describe how Mahaprabhu left the world in Chaitanya Charitamrita? So one explanation is obviously that to talk about the disappearance of the Lord is too painful, and therefore he missed out that narration. But one other commentator says the reason that Kaviraj Goswami doesn't talk about Mahaprabhu's disappearance is because Mahaprabhu never disappeared. Because the very final chapter, the 20th chapter of the Antya Leela is Shikshastakam. And Prabhupada writes, he lives forever in his instructions and the follower lives with him. So it's explained sometimes that Mahaprabhu hasn't left. Mahaprabhu is still right here because those that follow the instructions, the mood, the mission, the legacy that Mahaprabhu has left to share the revolution of love, they see Mahaprabhu. Adyapiha Shai Leela Kaha Gauraroy Kona Kona Bhagyavan Deki Barapoy. Adyapiha Shai Leela, his pastimes, his divine play is going on even today. Kona Kona Bhagyavan, but who is that fortunate person who has understood the real business of life? In life we can get distracted by so many other types of business. The real business is, what are we doing in the greatest movement on earth, the Sankirtan mission of Mahaprabhu? If we get busy in that business, then Kona Kona Bhagyavan, you become very, very fortunate. Deki Barapoy, and you can see Mahaprabhu before your eyes. Would you like to see Mahaprabhu? So it's a movement of miracles. So in this way, it was all instigated by Advaita Acharya, because it was Advaita Acharya's calls that made the Lord descend from that elevated place in the spiritual world down to this material world. Sometimes we say Mahaprabhu means highest to lowest, because it's the form of the Lord who comes from the highest planet down to the lowest planet in the lowest time, Kali Yuga. We say he's the highest to the lowest because he gives the highest gift of prema bhakti in its most intimate and intense form. He gives the highest gift to the lowest people, the people who have the least amount of qualification. Patita pavana hetu tavayavatar. Mosama patita prabhu na pai beal. He's the highest to the lowest because he's the supreme person, the prema purushottam, the mata parataram nanyat, nothing higher. But what does he come? He comes in the lowest position. Gopi bhartu padakamalayur das das anudas. So Mahaprabhu is covering a lot of distance. He's coming from the highest to the lowest. That is why Mahaprabhu is known as Karuna Avatar. Karuna Avatar means the incarnation of mercy, isn't it? Sometimes there's question, what is the difference between Kripa and Karuna? Kripa is mercy that you have to ask for. Gurudev, Kripa bindu diya. Oh, spiritual master, give me one drop of mercy. Kripa is mercy that you ask for. Karuna is mercy that you get even when you don't ask for it. The example is given of the Ganga. If you want to take the mercy of the Ganga, then you have to come out of your room, get out of bed, and then go down to the ghat and take bath. But when it's rainy season, the Ganga overflows. And even if you're sleeping in bed, have you been in Mayapur? The Ganga overflows and it comes to you, even when you don't want it. Patra, patra, vichar nahi, nahi stan, stan. Je jone paye kane tare prema dhan. Patra, apatra, vichar nahi. They never considered this is a good place, this is a bad place. Nahi stan, stan. Je jone paye tane kare prema dhan. Wherever they went, the Panchatattva, they just gave. So the revolution was ignited by Advaita-Acharya. Advaita-Acharya, he's described, his tattva is described that he is the causal, the efficient cause, and the original cause, and the remote cause of the universe. And he's also the original cause and the remote cause of Mahaprabhu's appearance. And so, very, very significant personality. So today we're reading from Adilila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter entitled The Glories of Advaita Acharya. And today we're reading from text number 28. So please, you can repeat after me. Jivanishtarila Krishna Bhakti Karidan Gita Bhagavata Koila Bhaktira Vyakhyan Jiva Nishtarila Krishna Bhakti Karidan Gita Bhagavate Koila Bhaktira Vyakhyan Jivanishtarila Krishna Bhakti Karidan Gita Bhagavate Koila Bhaktir Vakhyan Krishna Bhakti Karidan. Gita Bhagavate Koila Bhaktira Vyakhyan. Mataji's. Gita Bhagavate Koila Bhaktira Vyakhyan. Jivaranya Lila Krishna Bhakti Karidan. Gita Bhagavate Koila Bhaktira Vyakhyan. Jiva, the living entities, Nishtarila, delivered, Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to Lord Krishna, Gauri, making, Dan, gift, Gita Bhagavate, in Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Koila, performed, Bhaktira Vyakhyan, explanation of devotional service. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. He, Advaita-acharya, delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna Bhakti. He explained Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam in the light of devotional service. Purport. Although Sri Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of Vishnu, for the welfare of the conditioned souls, he manifested himself as a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And throughout all his activities, he showed himself to be an eternal servitor. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda also manifested the same principle, although they belong to the category of Vishnu. If Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu had exhibited their all-powerful Vishnu potencies within this material world, people would have become greater impersonalists, monists and self-worshippers than they had already become under the spell of this age. Therefore, the personality of Godhead and his different incarnations and forms played the parts of devotees to instruct the conditioned souls how to approach the transcendental stage of devotional service. Advaita-acharya especially intended to teach the conditioned souls about devotional service. The word acharya means teacher. The special function of such a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. A bona fide teacher following in the footsteps of Advaita-acharya has no other business than to spread the principles of Krishna consciousness all over the world. The real qualification of an acharya is that he presents himself as a servant of the Supreme. Such a bona fide acharya can never support the demoniac activities of atheistic men who present themselves as God. It is the main business of an acharya to defy such impostors posing as God before the innocent public. Srila Prabhupada ki. Advaita-acharya was born in Sylhet. We were very fortunate in, I think it was 2011, we went there with Kadamba Maharaj, very difficult place to get to. And in that place in Sylhet, on the border of Bangladesh and India, that's where Advaita-acharya appeared. And it's explained that later on Advaita-acharya was situated primarily in Shantipur. There in Shantipur, Advaita-acharya had his home. And of course, periodically he would come to Sridham Mayapur. Therefore, if you come out of our temple in Sridham Mayapur and you go towards the right side, then also Advaita Bhavan is there, where Advaita-acharya also has a home. But primarily Advaita-acharya was in Shantipur. And in Shantipur, Advaita-acharya had set up a school. A school to teach people the real principles of what life is all about. Sometimes we went to school, sometimes I think, I don't know how much I learned at school that actually helped me with life. Advaita-acharya opened up a real school, a school in which Gita Bhagavate Koila Bhakti Ravyakyan, he was teaching people the principles of the Gita and the Bhagavatam. And in this way, as an Acharya, he was actually teaching people the real purpose of life. And Advaita-acharya was powerful. He was a powerful teacher. He was a powerful speaker. It's mentioned that when the saintly people speak, Tatodu sangamutsreja sadhu satse tabuddhiman shanta evasya chindanti manovya sangamuktibi. Shanta evasya chindanti. The words of the saintly people are razor sharp. And what do they have the power to do? Manovya sangam uktibi. Just by hearing the words of a saintly person, they're so sharp, they're so razor sharp, that just by hearing their words, one's material attachments can be cut. The Mahabharata says, the words of a politician are like butter, but their heart is like a razor. And the words of a sadhu are like a razor, but their heart is like butter. So the words of the saintly are powerful. So Advaita-acharya was speaking Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as an acharya, teaching, and people were getting convinced. And one of the most eminent people to get convinced by the words of Advaita-acharya was Sachimata's own son, Vishvarup. Because when he was very young, his parents were already planning Shadi.com. Already planning for his marriage. But Vishvarup was hearing from Advaita-acharya. And you know, they do, your parents do tell you, don't get too close to those guys. You lose all interest. So Vishvarup was hearing and he was losing interest. I don't know, do I really want to get married? And then he heard his parents planning, and then immediately, just left. Left in a flash. In those days, that's how they took sannyas. There was no waiting list, planning, checking. One day he just decided, finished. They walked out of their village and it said they would take up a danda and they would draw a line. Go past that line and vow never to come back past that line again. So Vishvarup left. Now when the son leaves for the mother, it's a big pain. So Sachimata was so distraught. Actually, Sachimata in her life went through so much. First, all of her children died at the time of birth. Finally, she had a son, Vishvarup. Then Vishvarup takes sannyas. Then her husband, Jagannath Mishra, later on, he also passed away. Then later on, her son, Mahaprabhu, Nimai, married Lakshmi Priya. But then what happened? Lakshmi Priya died. Then finally, later on, Nimai even left and took sannyas as well. So Sachimata had a hard life. So many people left her home. So anyway, when Vishvarup left, she was so distraught. And she was angry with Advaita-acharya. Because after Vishvarup left, then Nimai was also going to listen, hearing from Advaita-acharya. It's interesting, Advaita-acharya was a grihasta, but the way he was speaking, he was inspiring people to take sannyas. I mean, it was powerful. So Sachimata, one day she came to Advaita-acharya and she said, your name is Advaita, non-dual, non-duplicitous. But you are Dvaita. You're duplicitous because you're breaking the family. She was so angry with Advaita-acharya. The saintly people who preach, sometimes they get cursed by the parents. Prabhupada said, I was also cursed by the parents of my disciples, and therefore I cannot remain in one place. Just like Daksha cursed Narad Muni, a lot of sons there were sacrificed, the Haryashvas, the Savalashvas. So parents sometimes is difficult. Brahmananda Prabhu says when he and Garga Muni joined the temple, 26 Second Avenue, then their mother was distraught. And one day she came to the storefront to give the Swami a piece of her mind. So when she came into the storefront, everyone was there, Prabhupada was lecturing, everyone was sitting on the floor, but they had one metal chair for a VIP. Because, they can't sit on the floor. So Prabhupada said, put the metal chair out, let her sit on the chair, she is your mother, worshipable. So she was listening to Prabhupada, and then finally they talked to Prabhupada, and she said, what are my sons doing here? Prabhupada said, we are feeding them, we are teaching them, we are sheltering them, we are helping them to make their life perfect. Then Prabhupada looked at their mother and said, would you like to give a donation? Then she looked at Prabhupada, she said, I've already donated my sons. Prabhupada said, oh, you've donated? Okay, that's okay then. We'll take them then. Brahmananda Prabhu said, Prabhupada expertly got her to say that. I've donated my sons. And then when they were getting initiated, Prabhupada said, she was at the initiation ceremony, and Prabhupada told Brahmananda and Garga Muni Prabhus, take the dust, bow down to her feet. Every time you see your mother, bow down. So Brahmananda Prabhu bowed down. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna. He said, I just chanted Prabhupada's pranam mantra and I bowed down. And he said, then later on I would go to Connecticut where their family home was, and I would ring the doorbell, and she'd open the door and she'd be like, who's here? And then she'd see on the ground. He followed that instruction. So Sachimata was very annoyed with Advaita-acharya. And later on, when Mahaprabhu performed the Mahaprakash Leela, and he was benedicting everyone, then all the devotees were saying, but what about Sachimata? What about Sachimata? Mahaprabhu said, she cannot get. Why? Your mother? No, she offended Advaita-acharya. She must gain forgiveness from him. So the devotees thought, my God, what shall we do? So they all went to Advaita-acharya and they said, we are sorry, Mother Sachi, she offended you. And Advaita-acharya went into ecstasy. Mother Sachi, how can she offend me? She is the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And remembering Mother Sachi's glories, he went into ecstasy and he fainted. The devotee said, here's your chance. Call Sachimata, take the dust off his feet. And so that's what Sachimata did. And they said as soon as she touched Advaita-acharya's feet, who had fallen and fainted in trance, she also fainted as well. So Advaita-acharya here, he's powerful. He was a powerful teacher. Of course, on one occasion, he began teaching the wrong thing. Advaita-acharya was 52 years older than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his culture, whoever is your elder, you must respect. That's culture. So Mahaprabhu would always respect Advaita-acharya as his superior. But Advaita-acharya felt very uncomfortable about that. Chaitanyera dasa mui Chaitanyera das, Chaitanyera dasa mui dasera das. He would constantly sing, I am the servant of Mahaprabhu, I am the servant. But Mahaprabhu always treated him as a superior. So one day he said, I am renowned for teaching Gita, Bhagavate, Vyakhyan. I'm renowned for teaching Gita and Bhagavatam, but let me give a different spin on it. So he began speaking Yoga Vasistha philosophy, impersonal philosophy. Vaishnavas have 3 sports. swimming, wrestling, and defeating Mayavadis. So when they see a Mayavadi, that immediately invokes some transcendental anger. So when Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, they heard, do you know in Shantipur, Advaita-acharya is speaking import? What? Immediately they jumped into the Ganga, swam, went all the way to Shantipur. They checked with Chandrasekhar-acharya. Is it true? Yes, he's Yoga Vasistha. What to do? He's speaking. So Mahaprabhu, as Advaita-acharya was in his school giving a lecture, Mahaprabhu broke into the room, went right up to Advaita-acharya, right in front of his face, and said, what is higher, Gyan or Bhakti? Advaita-acharya looked Mahaprabhu in the eyes and said, Gyan. Mahaprabhu became so angry, he caught hold of Advaita-acharya, he threw him off the Vyasasana, started beating him in transcendental rage. Now this scene in the Chaitanya Bhagavata is amazing because Mahaprabhu is in transcendental rage. Advaita-acharya is being beaten up, he's in complete ecstasy. Sita Devi, his wife, is next to him and she's crying. You're going to kill him. Nityananda is behind her and he's dancing. And behind Nityananda is Haridas Thakur and he's chanting his rounds. It's an amazing scene. It's an amazing scene because you see how everyone is an individual in Krishna consciousness. Everyone expresses their spiritual consciousness in a different way. So Advaita-acharya, he wanted to get the mercy of Mahaprabhu like this. So he began speaking all of this. So Mahaprabhu and Advaita-acharya, very, very deep relationship, very, very closely connected. The Panchatattva, they are described in many, many literatures. Perhaps the first place where the Panchatattva are described as a unit like that are by Swarup Damodar in his diaries, which were written during Mahaprabhu's presence in this world. But the Panchatattva as a unit were later on more popularized by Kavi Karnapur, especially in Gaur-Ganadesh Deepika and other books like that. But Swarup Damodar, in one of his writings, he explains that each member of the Panchatattva is the shelter of a different thing. Each member of the Panchatattva is a different ashraya. So he describes that Mahaprabhu is rasa ashraya. He's the shelter of all transcendental relish. Because Mahaprabhu is Krishna, and who is Krishna? Rasovei Saha. He's the reservoir of all mellows. Therefore Krishna has all these names, Rasaraj, Rasanath, Rasika Shekhar, like this. So Swarup Damodar says Mahaprabhu is Rasa Ashraya. He says Gadada Pandit is Bhava Ashraya. He's the shelter of transcendental emotion. Because who is Gadada Pandit? Sometimes it's mentioned he's a direct incarnation of Srimati Radharani. Sometimes it's said he is the incarnation of the duty of Srimati Radharani, her effulgence. But whichever it may be, Gadada Pandit is representing Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani is the highest development of Mahabhav. And therefore, Gadada Pandit is said to be the Bhava Ashraya. He's who we pray to for Bhav. He was also relishing Bhagavatam, isn't it? And you can't relish Bhagavatam unless you have Bhav. Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. You have to be a Bhavuka, a connoisseur of devotion to be able to relish Bhagavatam. So Gadadhar Pandit was reading Bhagavatam, relishing it, experiencing bhav, so much so that when he read the Bhagavatam, he was crying. And his tears meant that the whole manuscript of the Bhagavatam became blotched and practically unreadable. Nityananda Prabhu, Swarup Damodar tells us, is Prema Ashraya. He is the shelter of Prema, because his love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his ability to awaken that love and share that love with anyone and everyone is unparalleled. Ha Prabhu Nityananda, Premananda Sukhi, Kripa Balokana Koro, Ami Boro Dukhi. So he is the Prema Ashraya, Swarup Damodar says. He is the abode of love. Swarup Damodar then says that Srivas Thakur is Shuddhanam Ashraya. Because of course, in Srivas Thakur's home, the chanting of the holy name was always going on. And so many mystical things happened in those kirtans. And so, Prabhu Vishnu Prabhu was mentioning yesterday that Mahaprabhu always appeared in 4 places. Sachira Mandire Ar Nityanandartane, Shrivas Kirtane Ar Raghava Bhavane, E Charithani Prabhu Sada Avirbhav, Prema Krishna Hoya Prabhur Sahaja Svabhav. In these 4 places, Shrivas Kirtane, wherever Srivas Thakur's kirtans were going on, Sada Avirbhav, the Lord always appeared. Prema Krishna, because he is attracted by the love that is generated in those places. So Srivas Thakur is known as Shuddhanam Ashraya. So Mahaprabhu is Rasa Ashraya, Gadadhar Pandit is Bhava Ashraya, Nityananda Prabhu is Prema Ashraya, Srivas Thakur is Shuddhanam Ashraya. And according to Swarup Damodar, Advaita Acharya is Pancharatriki Vidhi Ashraya. He is the shelter of how to worship the Lord according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi. Because it was his worship, wasn't it? It was his worship that brought Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to this world. He said that first he was praying that there be an improvement in the Kali Yuga, and therefore first he offered flowers into the Ganga. And he said that Mother Sachi, she touched these flowers, and he said that as a result of that, Vishwarup was born. But then later on what happened is Advaita Acharya saw a verse in the Gautamiya Tantra. Tulasi dalamatrena jalasya chulukena va vikrinete svamatmanam bhaktebhyo bhaktajana priya. He read this one verse in the Gautamiya Tantra that the Supreme Lord, if he's offered tulasi leaves and Ganga Jal, then immediately, if offered bhaktebhyo with love, then immediately the Supreme Lord becomes conquered. And so to his household, Shaligram Shila in Shantipur, that's what Advaita Acharya began to do. Simple worship, but done with incredible devotion. Devotion and compassion. The compassion of the great devotees, that is our hope. The compassion that resides within the Vaishnavas is the only hope in Kali Yuga. Of course, Advaita Acharya, ontologically we know that he is Sadashiva, Mahavishnu combined. And Shiva is known also as Ashutosh, very easily pleased, always looking to give mercy. Isn't it when the demigods and the demons churned the milk ocean and the poison came out, then Lord Shiva took that poison and held it because that poison had the power to destroy the whole universe. And there the Bhagavatam explains, Tapyante lokatapena sadhavo prayasojana paramaradhanam tadhi purushasya khilatmanaha. Tapyante lokatapena. To accept suffering in order to relieve the suffering of the conditioned souls. Sadhavo prayasojana. This is what all the great souls do. If you want to know the greatness of a soul, just see how much suffering are they willing to take on in order to relieve the suffering of others. Param aradhanam tadhi. The Bhagavatam says there is no higher way to worship Krishna than this. Purushasya kilatmana. And therefore all great people should endeavor to do this compassion. So Advaita-Acharya, he had this compassion. And because of that compassionate heart, the Lord was attracted. The Lord came. Of course, it's mentioned that Srila Prabhupada, with his compassionate heart, also went to that very same place, Shantipur. And the Pujari there, he tells the story of how Srila Prabhupada would go there as a householder. And he said, I always noted Srila Prabhupada, even when he was in white clothes, I saw him because he would sit at the back of the temple and he would chant very, very intently. Very intensely. He said, I noted him. And then the Pujari said, years later, I saw someone sitting in that very same spot in the temple. But this time he was not in white clothes. Now he was in saffron. And he saw Srila Prabhupada, who had come there just before going to the West. And Prabhupada was again chanting very intensely. And the Pujari asked him, what are you doing? Why are you here? He said, my spiritual master has given me an impossible task. He wants me to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, the English-speaking world. I have no idea how it's possible. And then the Pujari says, later on, I saw Western Vaishnavas coming to Shantipur. Who are these guys? How did they end up here? And then one time he went up to one of those Western Vaishnavas and he said, who are you? We are the disciples of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And who's that? Then they showed him a Back to Godhead magazine. He goes, him? He did it. He did it. Because he had faith. Bhakti nahi, bedi nahi, khub naam daro. Bhaktivedanta naam, ebesar thakoro. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Jaladuta prayers at the end, Bhakti nahi. I don't have devotion, Krishna. Of course, in his humility. Bedi nahi. Krishna, I don't have any knowledge. Khub naam daro. But I have deep faith in the holy name of Krishna. And because Srila Prabhupada had that faith and he had that compassion, Prabhupada ignited the revolution. So that is the qualification. Advaita-Acharya with faith and compassion prayed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. So the devotees, this whole 6th chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is all about Advaita-Acharya, and what's really coming out is Advaita-Acharya's seva bhav, his attitude of wanting to serve. So Advaita-Acharya is a servant, and he's thinking, what can I do with my time? What can I do with my energy to render the greatest service to the world? And so, when the devotees have that service attitude, that desire to really want to do something, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said, when one's desire to serve is so great that they go beyond their capacity but they continue on without hesitation. At that moment, empowerment occurs. So as one's seva bhav deepens, one's empowerment increases. Service attitude and empowerment in bhakti are proportionate. Same thing with Kaviraj Goswami. He came to Vrindavan on Nityananda's order. Hare Hare Krishna Das na karaha bhai, Vrindavana yaha taha sarva labhya hai. Nityananda came to him in a dream and said, don't worry, just go to Vrindavan, there you'll get everything. And so he went to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan he went to the Govindaji temple, where all the devotees were hearing about Mahaprabhu. And they told him, we want you to write about Mahaprabhu's later pastimes. Kaviraj Goswami says, Murkha nichak shudre mui vishaya lalash. Me? Murkha, I'm a fool. Nicha, I'm so low. Kshudra, I have no intelligence. Vishaya lalash, I'm always engaged in sense gratification. But, he says, you've instructed me. Vaishnavagya bole kore eite ka sahash. You've instructed me, you've told me. And because my desire to serve is there, I'm sure that you will empower me. And so even though he felt himself unqualified because he had a desire to serve, then he received first the garland from Madan Mohan, and then all the good wishes of the devotees, and finally the association of Raghunath Das Goswami. And therefore he was able to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this seva bhav, which is represented by Advaita Acharya, is so powerful. Seva bhav imbued with faith and compassion. That can change the world. And therefore, on this day, as we remember Advaita Acharya, we can also pray that we can have some of that faith, some of that compassion, so that we can also become instruments in this movement which is trying to make people's lives better. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, let me stop here and see whether there may be any questions, comments, reflections, or anything else anyone may want to ask. Yes, Keshava.
I was just wondering where that reference was that you've made. I've never heard that before. With the Panchatattva, the fire.
So it's mentioned that it's in Swarup Damodar's diaries, and of course Swarup Damodar's diaries have been lost because the way that Chaitanya Charitamrita was written was that Swarup Damodar wrote diaries of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but then what happened is those diaries were lost, but the saving grace was that Raghunath Das Goswami, he heard everything from Swarup Damodar, and so at Radha Kund, every single day Raghunath Das Goswami was speaking for 3 hours and sharing those. So many things were written in Swarup Damodar's diaries, but those actual diaries are not present, but it's said that much of the information is passed down in oral tradition. So this reference is given in The Art of Chanting Hare Krishna by Mahanidhi Maharaj. So he mentioned Swarup Damodar's diary there. So, but we don't have those original manuscripts, so they're passed down in oral tradition. That's how we learn of these things. Yes?
So, what happens if the line gets blown away when you make a line?
Oh, the sannyas line. We have someone who's very interested in the sannyas line. Nice to know you're interested in these topics. The line in the dirt is more, it's kind of more, what do you call it when it's like a figure, like a
Symbolic.
symbolic. It's more symbolic. It's more symbolic. It's not like set in stone. Because even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after he left Navadvip and took sannyas, actually he also came back to meet his mother and other things. So in our line, sannyas and some of the regulations are still, there's some higher consideration sometimes. So don't worry. You can come back to Melbourne Temple.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class, Maharaj. Maharaj, in the purport it says, if Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu had exhibited their all-powerful Vishnu potencies within this material world, people would have become greater impersonalists, monists and self-worshippers. So how do we understand that? Because they came to deliver people, like, so how would they, if they would have exhibited their Vishnu potencies, how would they become impersonalists? Thank you.
Yeah, the answer is in the next line. Prabhupada says, therefore the personality of Godhead and his different incarnations played the parts of devotees to instruct the conditioned souls. E mata bhakta bhav kori angikar, apaniya chari bhakti korila prachar. E mata bhakta bhav. When Krishna comes in Kali Yuga, he comes in the bhakta bhav. He comes in the mood of a devotee. Apani-achari, by my own example, by my own activities, korila prachar, I will teach like that. So in Kali Yuga, you know, like sometimes if a child can't write, then what the person will do is he'll come behind the child and hold his hand and then write together like that. Sorry, thank you. Because they can't do it themselves. So therefore in Kali Yuga, the efficient and effective and powerful way to teach, the Lord decided, was to come as a bhakta himself and to teach by example. Because the tendency in Kali Yuga is that they may not accept any other. This was an easier way to teach and a more effective like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class and thank you for being here. Maharaj, you had mentioned how the words of a saintly person can be very convincing. Like we see in the case of Advaita-Acharya, who himself was the incarnation of the Lord. He convinced Lord Chaitanya and Vishvarupa to take sannyas. So how come his sons, who were staying with him for 24 hours, became Smarta Brahmanas?
So yes, it's described that Advaita-Acharya had 6 sons and 3 of them followed and 3 of them deviated. So how is it that if he was so convincing that he was not able to convince his own sons? Ultimately, you see, it's not just the qualification of the speaker, but it's the receptivity of the listener as well. That also makes a difference. Therefore, it's mentioned that even Krishna, what does Krishna say at the end of the Gita after speaking to Arjuna? Itite jnanamakyatam guyat guyataram maya vimrashe tadasheshena yata icha Tatha Guru. That now I've told you, you think about it, and then ultimately you have to do what you want to do. So, in different situations, different things are being shown in pastimes. So in the situation where Advaita Acharya is convincing and inspiring, then the lesson that's being shown there is that Advaita Acharya is a powerful deliverer of spiritual wisdom, knowledge. But in the case of his own sons, the lesson being taught there is that even if you have the most incredible teacher, if your consciousness is not in the right place, then you have the free will to even reject that teaching. So what you'll find this is a lot in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that in different situations, different things are being taught, and sometimes it feels like it's a contradiction. Like say for example, Mahaprabhu refuses to see King Prachaparudra because he's a government person, and sannyasis don't meet royalty. Niskinjanasya bhagavad bhajanon mukasya param param jigamisor bhavasagarasya. It's like drinking poison, Mahaprabhu says. I won't meet a royal person. But that very same Mahaprabhu, when he goes to Godavari, then Ramananda Rai comes with a retinue, and without hesitating he speaks with Ramananda Rai. Not just he speaks with him, he inquires from him and he's instructed by him. So in some situations Mahaprabhu is showing one principle, and in another situation he's showing a different principle, that it's not about externals, it's about bhakti. But in this situation he's showing that you have to respect the regulations of Varnashram. So like that, whenever we look at any pastime, in different parts of the pastime, different things are being shown. Is that okay?
I also had another question, which is, we see Advaita Acharya and Arjuna, they ask Lord Krishna to exhibit his universal form instead of asking about his supremacy in the pastimes of Vrindavan. So how do we understand this?
Okay, good question. So everyone heard the question? Oh, okay. All right, we'll skip over then. No. The question was, Arjuna and Advaita Acharya both request the Lord to exhibit his universal form. Why is that the case? Why don't they want to see his Vrindavan pastimes? Or Advaita Acharya and Arjuna, they are playing a dual role in their life. One of their roles is obviously their own love for the Supreme Lord and their own relishing of his transcendental name, fame, form and qualities. But the other role that they're playing is they're trying to establish the supremacy of the Lord, isn't it? So therefore, Arjuna, he asks to see the universal form, Srila Prabhupada explains, not because he's particularly interested himself, but because he wants to reveal the glory of Krishna to the whole world, that aham sarvasya prabhavo, matta sarvam pravartate, that everything comes from Krishna. And so Advaita Acharya, he also, his goal, he called Mahaprabhu here, and Mahaprabhu came in the Bhakta Bhav, but his goal is also to establish to the world that Mahaprabhu is that Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore both of them, they're playing dual roles. And therefore in each role they may request different things. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a wonderful class. I have a question, Maharaj. There's a saying that we do our best, rest we leave on Krishna. So how to understand we have done our best? Because there are both the tendency. One tendency is like self-dependent. We feel so much dependent on ourselves. We have to do this. We have to do this. At that moment we don't take shelter of Krishna. But sometimes there is a laziness as well, that we only want to take a shelter of Krishna and not do the endeavor which is required. So how to understand that, we have done our best and we can now rest, we leave it on Krishna.
So we often hear karmanyeva dikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, that you must do your duty diligently, give your best 100%, and then ma karma phalaheturbur, then be detached from the results. But how do you know that you are giving your best? How do you know that you're giving 100%? To give your best means to give your hand, your head, and your heart. To give your hand means in any endeavor, are you exerting all the energy you can do? To give your head means in that activity, are you utilizing all your intelligence and the guidance of devotees in what you're trying to achieve? And to give your heart means is in that activity, are you also doing it with intention and with attention? Once you've invested the entirety of your hand, your head, and your heart, then you have to step back and say, Krishna, now it's up to you. Like Prabhupada says, I'm a puppet in your hands, and if you've brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Now you can make me a success or failure as you wish. So we can only give our hand, our head, and our heart, and then it's all up to Krishna. But you may then say, how do I know that I'm giving my hand, my head, and my heart? That can only be known in the heart of someone who's very sincere. Because if we're sincere, then at the end of the day, when we go to sleep and we look deep within ourselves, we'll know, I had more in the tank. I could have given more. We will know. And you will know when you go to sleep at night, Krishna, I don't know, I didn't have any more I could give. So I think ultimately the answer to that question is only found within the sincere heart of someone who really wants to please Krishna. Is that okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thanks for the very nice class. Maharaj, being compassionate, at times we may have to go through challenges and suffer also, but and then we know it's maybe a plan of Krishna, that because our past karma, but it may be so challenging at times that we don't feel like it's better to not to be too compassionate about this. So is it still better to be compassionate and accept it as it is, as hard it as gets, or say that, okay, it's enough, no need to be compassionate, just say, move on?
So you're talking about when we're suffering,
Yes.
when we're going through suffering, should we be compassionate to others, or you mean to ourselves?
To ourselves.
To ourselves.
And everything actually.
And?
To others and ourselves.
Okay, I don't know if I've fully understood your question. I'll say something, and then if I haven't, you can tell me. We all have our own problems. We all have our own obstacles in life. And then we're told that we have to go out and we have to help people with their problems. Sometimes it feels overwhelming. How can we do that? A few things here are important. The first thing is, in the world, in one study, they did a study of the most compassionate people in the world. And the one quality they found amongst the most compassionate people in the world, which is almost counterintuitive, is that the most compassionate people in the world have boundaries in their life. And you think, how can the most compassionate people have boundaries? Compassion means you just go and you just give. But the idea is that when you take time to be in good consciousness, when you take time to be stable and strong and inspired yourself, then you can really help others. You can't take the world to a higher place than what you've reached internally yourself. And therefore, we can't, we have to be happy. If you go out and you distribute the book, chant and be happy, and you look miserable, the person will look at you and say, maybe you should read it first. So we have to be feeling Krishna consciousness. We have to actually be joyful. The best strategy for spreading Krishna consciousness is happy devotees. Because no one can argue with you if you're happy. Once I was giving a class at a university and I was talking about how material things don't make me happy. And then one person said, no, I'm happy. I said, no, you're not. He said, no, I'm happy. I said, no. He goes, no, I'm happy. And it's like, really? And everyone in the room understood, like, if you're happy, no one can argue with you. So real compassion comes from a heart that's experiencing Krishna. So there's something to be said for that. Take time, be kind to yourself, inspire yourself, and then give more. But now let me tell you the other side. The other side is that the magic of bhakti is that when you try to make other people wise, Krishna fills you with realizations. When you try to awaken bhakti in others, Krishna increases your own stock. And you know what? If you actually go and try to help other people solve their problems, you come back home and you begin to see many of your own problems have disappeared without you even trying. Because Krishna's on your side, Krishna will help you. So both of these elements are important, and so we can consider both of these sides. Did that answer? Okay. Okay, maybe a last question.
You had mentioned that Mahaprabhu is Rasacharya and Gadadhar Pandit is
Bhava-Acharya, yes.
Bhava-Acharya. Yeah. So what's the difference between these and how do they manifest?
Yeah. Bhava is an emotion. Rasa, as Rupa Goswami explains, is the combining of different elements that produce an experience. Does that make sense? So for example, he says there's 5 elements of rasa: sthāyi bhav, vyabhichari, sattvika bhavs, and all of that. So rasa is that which is produced when different ingredients are put together and combined to create an experience within the living entity. And bhav is like an ecstatic symptom or an ecstatic stimulant, like that. So therefore, So this is mentioned that Gadadhar Pandit is Bhava-Acharya. Why? Because Srimati Radharani, who Gadadhar Pandit is the complete embodiment of Mahabhav. And so he's showing that, and in different ways he's showing that. So I was mentioning, it's explained. In Jagannath Puri, Gadadhar Pandit was reading every single day Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. It's explained later on, Śrīnivāsācārya came to learn from him. And when Śrīnivāsācārya came to learn from him, then he couldn't read the manuscript because Gadadhar Pandit had been crying all over it. He was experiencing those symptoms of tears. So that bhav, and rasa is more like the general experience that's created by all of these different things coming together in a combination. Yeah? So, okay. Okay, last one.
Thank you. So we hear that the best form of worship of Sri Nityananda Roy is to go out door to door and invite everyone to participate in the Yugadharma Harinam Sankirtan. What is a practical way, similarly, to worship Sri Advaita Acharya?
Well, we can say the one common theme amongst all the Panchatattva is a deep compassion, as we was mentioning. Say Panchatattva mili prithivi ashiya purva brandarera mudra ugadiya, that when the Panchatattva came together, they only had one agenda, and that was to taste lutiya, kaya, diya. This is basically the mission of Panchatattva. Step number 1, lutiya, break it. Step number 2, kaya, taste it. Step number 3, diya, give it. All the Panchatattva were doing this. Yes, Nityananda Prabhu was definitely a luminary in giving it to another level, but all of them were giving it. Here, Advaita Acharya is teaching, Gita Bhagavate Vyakhyan. Srivas Thakur was giving it in Srivasangan. Gadada Pandit, more subdued, was also giving in Navadvip. So like that, all of the Panchatattva are in the mood of giving. So all of the Panchatattva are worshipped by the Sankirtan movement. So anyone who is alive and active in giving Krishna consciousness, that's the best way to worship all of the Panchatattva. Is that okay? All right, thank you all very much. Sri Advaita Acharya ki jai. Yeah. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll just hand over, I don't know what the announcement is. There's an announcement about my books. I was trying to avoid saying it myself. Okay, yeah, if anyone would like any books, then they will be here, yeah, or outside, yes. Thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.